Okay, and welcome back, students taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications. And this is the Chapter 15 word problems, the odd numbered problems, and we're picking up with problem 15-13. Now, it says Mike Jones bought a new split-level home for $150,000 with 20% down. He decided to use Victory Bank for his mortgage. All right, Victory was offering 13.75% for 25-year mortgages. Provide Mike with an amortization schedule for the first 3 periods. Okay, so I just recreated this quick little table here in order to be able to outline things. So I have 3 periods, 1 payment, 2 payments, and 3 payments. And it says here we had 150,000 and a down payment of 20%. So 20% of 150,000 is 30,000. It's 30,000. And when we subtract that from 150,000, we end up with less 30,000. We end up with 120,000 is the amount that we're borrowing. Okay, that's going to be the loan amount at 13.75% for 25 years. Now remember, the 25 years is times 12 ends up being 120 payments, right? 120 monthly payments. Because why are we doing that? Because we need to know, we're going to figure out what our monthly payment is and then have to multiply it by the 120 in order to be able to know how much is being paid during that period of time, right? So as part of this amortization schedule, the first thing that we need to do here is we need to figure out what our monthly payment is. Okay, so our monthly payment, right, we're going to take the 120,000, okay, and remember we're going to multiply the 120,000 by the factor, but the table on 15.1, table 15.1 in the amortization table is in thousands, so we can just drop off, cancel off that 1,000 and start with 120. And when we look at the table, we find for the 13.75% for 25 years, the factor is 11.85, and when we multiply that by the 120, we get a monthly payment of $1,422. Okay, so that's our monthly payment. Now, the question is, how much is that? How much is the interest, and how much is the principal? Well, if I have 120,000, remember, okay, let me erase that. The formula is interest is equal to principal times rate times time, and we did this in the previous problems. So 120,000 times 13.75%, so that's 0.1375 in decimal form, times time. We're looking at interest for a month, so that's 1/12. And when we do the math by multiplying 120,000 by 0.1375 and then dividing by 12, we end up with $1,375. That's our interest. Okay, so our interest here is $1,375. And of course, if our monthly payment is $1,422 and our interest is $1,375, the difference between the two is $47 of principal. Okay. Now, since the $47 is principal, it goes against the beginning balance of $120,000, right? So we have to subtract the $47, and we end up with $119,953 as our balance outstanding after we made that payment. Okay, now pause the video and write all of this down if you have to, because then we'll be doing payment number 2, and I'm going to just erase some of the figures here in order to be able to do the math a little bit easier. Okay, so pause the video and then come back. Okay, so now if you're back, I'm erasing, and this is nothing but repetitive. Okay, except now instead of beginning at 119,953, okay, I'm sorry, instead of starting at 120,000, we're beginning at 119,953. Okay. Now remember, our payment here was 14. Our monthly payment was $14.22, right? Because that doesn't change, right? The 120 times the 1185, that doesn't change. That's always going to be our monthly payment. What's going to change is the amounts that we use for interest and the amount that we use for principal. Okay, so from number 2, for payment number 2, we have to find our interest, and we start out with the 119,953, and we're going to multiply it by that same rate. All right, and for 1 month. Okay, and now when we do that math, we find that our interest is $1,374.46. Okay, so our interest is 1,374.46, and we take, again, subtract the interest from the payment, and we have our principal amount of $47.54. And now we have to find our new outstanding balance. So that was $119,953 less the $47.54, which gives us a new balance of $119,905.46. So $119,905.46. Okay, and this, this is just repetitive. Okay, so I'm just going to pause the video one more time. Okay, and then copy everything down that you need to, and then come back as I'm going to erase some of these figures again. Okay, so pause the video here, and I'll be back. Okay, now that you're back, what are we going to erase here? Okay, we're going to erase this, we're going to erase this, and we're going to erase all of that. Right? So again, we know our monthly payment is $14.22. We have to find our interest, and our interest is now on the new balance of $119,905.46 times the interest rate times the time, and that gives us a new monthly payment, a new interest amount of $1,373.92, which we subtract from the monthly payment, and that gives us a new principal amount of $48.08. And we take our balance that was outstanding, $119,905.46, and we subtract the principal amount, the amount that gets applied against the principal, and we come up with a new balance outstanding of $119,857.38. $9,857.38. Okay, so as you can see, that this here is just it's just repetitive, okay, and it's just number crunching and doing the math. Now we did it for only 3 payments, by hand. And this is where, and yeah, if we had to actually, if we didn't have calculators or computers, we'd actually have to do the math by hand, and you can see how much longer that would take. By using the calculator, yeah, we can save some of that time. And if we put it into an Excel spreadsheet, we'd save a lot of time in that respect. But could you imagine how much work it would have been if we actually had to go and calculate out that factor? Okay, so yes, you have to do this manually by hand, and this is where computers can come in to do the repetitive tasks for you and be a little bit more accurate and efficient. But for working through these problems, it's going to be time consuming. And so with that, I will see you in the next problem.